Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Gessman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Gessman, coming to you on a Monday, November 18th. I'm pretty sure, I'm like 95% sure the LA Galaxy have a game this weekend. That's all I'm really sure about. I've actually forgotten how they keep scoring soccer at this point. It's been so long since the Galaxy are still in the playoffs. They're playing Minnesota. These things I'm fairly certain of, and we're going to talk about that as we get you ready for this week. A little rain in the forecast perhaps this weekend. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but joining us in just a couple minutes will be LA Galaxy President of Business Operations, Mr. Tom Braun, so we have that as well. To help us do all of the fun stuff we're going to do today, he's back better than ever. It's Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter. How you doing, bud?
I don't know about better than ever, but hey, I like those pajamas. Those are good-looking pajamas.
This is a Christmas shirt that I bought that now I have to wear any chance I get, because like you only get like 3 weeks of like wearing a shirt like this.
So you exchanged cash money for that shirt.
I did. I paid for it.
You give them cash and they gave you the shirt back.
Santa's playing golf on here. It's good. It's good. It's a nice, again, very small one. Where do you fit on the whole like Thanksgiving holiday? Like is Eric the Hammer? I don't know if I'm blowing up the special text thread, but Eric goes, Thanksgiving's really just part of the Christmas holiday at this point. Like, and somebody said again, you can't complain about people playing Christmas songs when there are very few Thanksgiving bangers. I think Adam Sandler has the one Hanukkah banger and the one Thanksgiving banger. So for me, I'm here, man. I'm here. It's the holidays are upon us.
There's a guy in our neighborhood. I literally watched him take down his Halloween decorations and put up the Christmas ones the same weekend.
I was talking to some of the guys at the train club who are a little bit older sometimes, and they're like, there are people who had their Christmas lights up before Halloween. And I'm like, really? I go, that's a little stretch for me. I did put up Halloween lights, and then there was a whole discussion about how, well, there's such thing as Halloween lights? I go, there are now, apparently. They're orange lights. I've had bats out and that type of thing. So, yeah, I don't know what to do with myself, Kevin. There's supposed to be soccer on. We're supposed to be, like, in the middle of a playoff hunt, and I just took a 3-week vacation where, like, I zoned out from LA Galaxy news.
Well, check this out. If the Galaxy were to make it to MLS Cup, that would be played on December 7th.
Yes, correct.
And then they would have the rest of the year off, and then they would start camp in because they would be going to CONCACAF Champions Cup. They would start camp about midway through January. So they would have basically a 5 to 6 week break. They have a 22-day break in the middle of the playoffs.
Right.
So the off season's only slightly longer than the break between rounds 1 and 2 of the playoffs.
You're not wrong. Unfortunately, you're making sense, which should scare everybody at this point. No, it's weird. And I don't know. Certainly, I've been watching Galaxy fans. I've been watching sort of the temperament. I had some good podcast listeners. Alana was visited the train club, I think on Saturday or Sunday. I think Saturday. She came by, and I'm like, "What are you doing without?" She's like, "I don't know. I'm riding trains. Like literally, we're trying to find things to do to fill the time between it. It's a bad system. We know it's a bad system. The international break has to stay where it's at. The international break is there.
You could play games in August, which they used to do that, and then they stopped. And you could play games in August.
They still play games in August. They just don't play games that count towards the season in August. They play this mid-season tournament thing that we do called League Cup.
Which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It's not stupid to MLS. They make a lot of money in their pocket. They're very happy with that. But my thing was, you were saying, well, you have to schedule around this international break. This is technically them scheduling around the international break. Let's be very, very clear. This is them scheduling around it. Now, if they did home and away, like we all want them to do, home and away, aggregate score, you do it. By the way, would you mind a final that was also home and away aggregate? Like MLS Cup. Do you want it to be just one game, or do you want two legs?
Here's the problem with that. I've actually had conversations and thought about that. And there were tournaments in other sports, and the one that really it hit me when I saw the College World Series, where they have a loser's bracket and a winner's bracket. And if a team goes undefeated through the winner's bracket, they arrive at the final with no losses. Team comes through the loser's bracket, they've lost once. They've been able to have a mulligan. And then they meet in a one-day final. And the reason that is, so the team that was undefeated can't lose again. They have to win that game. The reason that is for TV. You can't say, oh, here's the final. Oh, come on back tomorrow.
Why not?
Because it's if the team that wins, the team that came through the winner's bracket wins, it's over. If the teams that come through the loser's bracket, then you have to play another game. So that's why it would be that's why Champions League and all these other finals are 2-leg finals until you get to the championship game.
Right. And then
all of a sudden it's one game because you can't come back for TV.
What you can. I mean, that's BS. If it's aggregate, it's aggregate.
Well,
like that type of thing. I get it.
Let's say
I get it.
You play on Sunday, December 1st, and you have the game, then you come back on the next one. You have to schedule that. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of a mess.
You think?
I suppose you could.
You think?
I suppose you could. But a one game winner take all is kind of the best way to do it. The World Cup's that way.
I watched a little bit of the U.S. game before this came on as I was cooking dinner and doing stuff. By the way, 4-2 win for the U.S. So I saw a little bit of international soccer there, but even you and I were looking up at international stuff because we're trying to figure out Minnesota players and that type of thing and where they sit and how many minutes they got and like that type of thing. And just the international landscape is such a hellscape as well, right? It's just which league are you playing in? Which games are you playing in? What round is this? Is this group stage? Is this knockouts? Is this semifinals? Is this CONCACAF? Is this
in
Nations
South America,
Cup?
it's World Cup qualifying,
right?
And then in Europe, it's Nations League. Here, it's Nations League, and then there's Nations League qualifying for teams that didn't qualify for Nations League this time.
It hurts my head, Kevin. That's all I'm going to say. It just hurts my head. By the way, Anthony, $5 super chat. What's the best dish and who cooks the best dish at the holiday season? G's up. Can't wait for the day on hat trick. What is the famous vegetarian dish that is played around your parts, you and Mrs. Panda, for Thanksgiving? Is it a traditional Thanksgiving?
No, it's Walmart lasagna.
No, it's not. No,
but I do love me some good stuffing.
Okay. Oh, stuffing's the best. Stuffing.
Yeah.
I saw somebody make a sandwich out of stuffing. Have you seen this? You take stuffing and you put it in the waffle maker, and then you press it, and then you pull it out. And it's a sandwich. And then you could put, if you liked meat, you would put the meat and the gravy and all that in the stuffing sandwich.
When I was a kid, when I was omnivorous, when I was a kid, and we had the turkey dinner for Thanksgiving, we had like turkey omelets, turkey sandwiches, or just turkey burritos, turkey, for weeks afterwards. Just way too much turkey.
Well, I mean, and also I was watching an Instagram story and somebody said, oh, you're trying to make turkey flavorful? Stop. It's never going to be. So don't freak out about cooking the turkey right. It's just not a good, it's just not a good bird. I have brine turkeys before. I am a big fan of mashed potatoes and gravy and stuffing. And if you try to put any vegetables on my plate during Thanksgiving, now that's not the time. That is not the time to be putting vegetables.
We tried one of those tofu turkey things. Oh my God. Don't even think, it's horrible.
And Antonio likes the stuffing sandwich idea. Like he's in on that. This is one of the questions I think we have to ask Tom Braun whenever he comes on, is what is his big turkey Thanksgiving dish.
He's going to be coming through the front door any second.
Any second. We're waiting for the ding dong as it goes. But no, I'm glad that we are back in this. We're looking at rain possibly this weekend. That's something that we get to discuss down the road as well. Would the Galaxy be a good rain team? Do they like playing? We were sort of talking some different things and going around in that general order. But the idea that that there really could be, a rain game, and the Galaxy in the past have sort of had some good luck with some rain games. So we'll talk about that a little bit sooner. But for right now, we're glad to have him back on the show. And as long as I hit all the right buttons, the president of business operations for the LA Galaxy, Mr. Tom Braun. Tom, are you there?
Hey guys, how are you?
We're doing great, Tom. Kevin and I are here. We got asked a question just before you called, and I think you need to weigh in on this. It's off topic, but that's how we're starting because we're a little rusty after 3 weeks off from no soccer. So, for turkey, what is the best dish that you make or that you eat? What is your favorite there?
Was this a super chat?
This was a super chat.
Off, right?
100%.
Wow, coming in hot early
yes,
on.
That's right.
You don't want me to make anything is the answer.
Yes.
However, sweet potatoes, rolls, biscuits.
Oh, yeah.
I'll eat a little bit of everything.
Okay, good. Kevin,
as long as I don't make it, because I am not a good chef.
Kevin's the vegetarian, so you said sweet potatoes, and his eyes perked up, and he started salivating a little bit. And
a little green bean casserole, maybe.
Yeah, and I go on strike for if there are vegetables on my plate for Thanksgiving, I did something wrong. So that's how
What about ham?
Yeah,
you eat ham?
My wife is an East Coaster, Tom. And I think we've talked about the stuffed ham, but she's a stuffed ham fan, and I can't get behind that. Quite honestly, I'm still surprised we're married at this point whenever it comes to the stuffed ham, but we'll make it through. Tom, we're glad to have you back on. The LA Galaxy coming up. I actually get to play a game this week. Has it, for us, we've been sort of slowly trying to work our way through these 22, 23 days off. For you guys at the LA Galaxy, has it been as difficult? Has it seemed as long?
Yeah, I mean, coming out of Colorado, I think everyone was pretty excited about the results we got at home and on the road. And 21, 22, 23 days, who's counting? But it's a long time, right?
Right.
It's a lot of time to plan. It's a lot of time to get things going. But would I prefer to probably play the week after? Yeah, but we're here, right? And we're here, and we're going to take care of business and make sure that our team is given the best atmosphere to compete in.
When you look at this upcoming game this weekend on Sunday, you guys are you pretty excited about it, how you've been able to plan and set up? This has been a really big departure this year just in terms of what you guys have tried to put into the game day experience. I have to imagine that as playoffs come around that you guys feel like there's that little extra step that you want to do. Is that fair?
Yeah, when we kicked off this season, I think we all looked at each other and we acknowledged a lot needed to change, right? We acknowledged that we really had a fight on our hands if we wanted to compete at a level that we wanted to compete to. And so I've been with the club 10, 11 years. Our goal when I joined the club was always to compete for championships, right? To win an MLS Cup. Something might have shifted along the way. Our ambition didn't shift and our work ethic didn't shift, but something shifted and making playoffs at some point became good enough, right? It's never good enough for the LA Galaxy just to make playoffs. It's always about winning championships and winning MLS Cups, right? So I can't honestly put my finger on this year, looking back, what changed, right? And, we started the season off with Miami, but that was probably too early to know. We had a really cool kit launch mid-year. Our staff worked really hard to put on a fantastic Rose Bowl game that didn't go our way. We had a great game here on September 14th. It's kind of hard to determine, what happened, but I think we all looked at each other this year and we acknowledged that something needed to change. And if I'm being fair, a lot has changed, right? And I think a lot has changed in a good way. Our group has a lot to be proud of the last 10 months. But the goal isn't going to change. Our goal is always going to be consistent of we need to win MLS Cups and we need to compete. So competing in playoffs is special, but competing at home in front of our fans for playoffs, that's more special, right? I don't think there's any coincidence that we're undefeated at home. That's really what I take the most pride in my role. It's the stat that I'm most proud of because I think if we're undefeated at home, it really means our group is doing their job. Mm-hmm. We're creating an atmosphere in the stadium from the first kick where the building's full, the building's loud, and we're doing our job to make sure that those guys on the field have the best environment to compete in. So talking about Sunday, it's our only responsibility. It's our main responsibility is how are we going to create an atmosphere after 20 some days off where we're creating that same amount of energy and atmosphere that we've had throughout the season, right? We have to find that moment where we're lifting them back up again, because that's our job to do, is to make sure that our fans, from the first kick, from the whistle, we're loud, we're in our seats, and we mean business, right?
Tom, this is Kevin. We're going to do this a little bit like a Senate hearing. I think we're going to go back and forth. So I have two questions for my first go around. We talked a little bit before you came on about the forecast for rain. Are you guys watching that closely, and how does that change what you do? Does it really complicate things, or you just put an umbrella up and ready to go?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change anything that we're doing. I'd let Will or Greg speak to how the team would compete, whether or not the field is wet or dry. But the game goes on, right? It's really lightning and wind that make the biggest difference. A little bit of rain, we're going to battle through it.
And the other thing is I think everyone's clear that what Will Kuntz has done to make the team better and what Greg has done, you see that and you talk about it and you see how the things mesh together. You're kind of on the business side. Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, last year you had the fan boycott, last season you had the fan boycott and everything, and it was, admittedly a pretty dismal season all the way around. But how does having a winning, successful team change what you do on the business side? I would imagine it opens all kinds of new opportunities.
Yeah, I think it does open up a ton of new opportunities, but it also raises the bar of the expectations, right? So when you're not winning, sometimes there's the ability to hide or maybe not deliver at the level you want to be delivering on. When you're winning and the team's successful, that just raises the bar. So it's certainly not easier. If anything, it's tougher because we're pushing harder and harder to take advantage of an opportunity, right? We need to make sure that the business operates as successfully as possible, regardless of the results on the field. Now, no one will debate winning on the field means everything, right? But we got to do everything we can to have a good core strategy that allows us to be successful, win or loss.
Yeah, you can certainly see just how much you guys, I think, have really tried to grab this season and make a difference. Is there anything you're particularly proud of this season in terms of what you've done on the business side that maybe we don't see, or maybe it's not as forward thinking for us here?
Yeah, I talked about it. I think the undefeated season, I take a lot of pride just in the team being undefeated. I think at home, we do so much work behind the scenes. I can't speak any more highly of the staff we have at the Galaxy. The crew we have here just works so hard every single day. We're not always going to be perfect. We never will be perfect, but we're going to strive every day to be a little bit better each and every day. So I think I mentioned to you guys on a previous podcast, we got this motto that we live by here. It's called Fight for the Fan. And really what it's about is winning over fans in our market, in which we provide the best experiences and every interaction and touch point they might have with our product and our brand. Like I said, we won't be perfect in everything that we do, but we're going to strive to be better every single day. And our group is the best in the business, top to bottom. In fact, I just left downtown. We had a AEG Service Awards, which is basically a recognition for tenure at AEG, and a couple individuals that you might not be aware of that work here every single day and bust their tails every day. One, Kevin knows well, Katie Pandolfo. Some outside of delivering pizza to him on game day occasionally.
Which I appreciate, by the way.
Yeah. She's been with the club 20 years. She's our general manager. So every time you come down driveway A and you see the landscaping is perfect, the atmosphere is great, the field, the grass the guys play on every day is the best in MLS. She's been with AEG 20 years and she runs our building really well. Another individual that does not ever get recognition but totally should is a woman named Veronica Martinez. She's also been with the club 20 years. So she's our office admin. She does everything. She's the glue that holds this place together. And you walk in, she's always smiling. Those type of individuals, that's what we're about. And that's who we are at the Galaxy. But there's a lot more of Katie's and Veronica's that people don't know of.
That's awesome. No, it's always nice to hear behind the scenes stuff. Other behind the scenes stuff, whenever we had you on for the live show, whenever we were out at Galaxy Park there, we had talked and you talked about renovating the bathrooms. That was the big, of course, surprise. But there's other things that are happening around the stadium. I always wonder, as somebody who's in construction and sort of has to worry about some of this stuff, is you guys clearly have a timeline where you want to get stuff done. But with the Galaxy continuing to stay in the playoffs, which is a good thing, probably clearly, but from a construction standpoint, your window is getting smaller as the Galaxy continue into these into the playoffs and possibly into an MLS Cup. How do you manage that? And remind us of some of the projects I think that you guys are going to do this offseason.
Yeah, it's a good point. So Adam Duvendek oversees all of our stadium operations, working with Katie on it, and we planned for this. We had the expectation when we knew we were going to do some construction this year that there was the possibility we'd be going into a game on December 7th, and we plan around it. So we have contingency plans in place. Our hope is that we are done with all the construction, and not hope, we will be done with the construction headed into that first game of the year against San Diego. Some of the things we're doing, we're replacing all the seats in the lower bowl. So if you had a bleacher before, you're going to have a tip-up seat or tip-down seat. If you had a tip-up seat on the sideline, you're going to have a new one. We're redoing all the field side seating. There'll be hospitality and new field side seating, player benches. We're redoing our cabanas. We're redoing a lot of our restrooms and our concessions. We'll have things like hamburgers next year and French fries, things that we haven't had in the past that are generally typical stadium fare, but things that we haven't had and things that we're adding. So everything is about how are we making the game day experience better for every single fan that comes into our building each time they come.
You went to Georgetown, is that correct?
I did, for undergrad, yep.
And you
USC
played some played some baseball there.
I did. I was a baseball player.
Yeah, I bring that up. There's a point to the story. I bring that up because you had told a story to Josh and I that talks about your ability to adapt. In high school, your team faced Josh Beckett, who was quite a phenom, went on to pitch in the major leagues. And you talked about how you prepared for the hardest thrower in Texas. You remember what you did? What you told us about?
Said a lot of prayers and wish he didn't hit me with the baseball.
You crank the pitching machine up, stood a little closer to it to make it seem a little bit faster.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing of adapting and making the best of maybe a bad situation has kind of been a storyline for you for a long time.
Yeah, you got to evolve. I think if you're sitting around waiting for something to change, you're probably in the wrong business. I know that every single day we're competing. We're competing in a really difficult market. We're competing against other teams. And in MLS, you oftentimes have to outpunch your weight class every single day and to make noise. So we recognize that, and in everything that we do, we're adapting. We take surveys after many of the games. We read the surveys and we try to make improvements. Now, some of these improvements, every time you come to the building, might not be noticeable, but each game, we're trying to make small gains every single game that you come to. Another thing that we're doing that I wanted to bring up was the fan council. So we rolled out the fan council last year. This is our second year. Applications are closing at midnight tonight, but we have hundreds of people that have signed up for the second year of the fan council. And really what the most important thing is, we need to hear from fans. All sorts of fans, whether you're a season ticket member or an individual game buyer or even a supporter. We want to hear from you. Sometimes we get in a little bit of a bubble thinking that we know exactly what everybody wants, and that's not true. We need to know kind of what our fans are thinking and how we can make their individual experiences better.
Well, you heard it there, folks. You got until midnight tonight. I wanted to ask you, too, in speaking about adapting, the Coachella tournament. Someone at MLS told me that their dream, and I don't know if they've shared this with you, I assume they have, their dream is to someday have maybe all 30 MLS teams playing in that tournament. And they know there's problems with hotel rooms and expenses and maybe even fields. But is that a workable thing? I mean, I know the tournament this year will start like maybe 15 minutes after the MLS Cup final, since there really isn't much of an offseason anymore. But would it be possible to have a tournament that big? Do you want to have a tournament that big out there?
So we have about 1,000 acres of grassland in Coachella Valley. As many of your listeners know, it's the same footprint as the music festival. We have space for 30 teams. We can provide a very unique experience for every single team that comes for their preseason. And, it's a good opportunity for teams to get out of cold weather markets or even warm weather markets, get away with your club and have a really good environment to be successful in your preseason. In addition to it, it's a really cool fan engagement opportunity. For those who have been to it before, you can't get much closer to watching some of your favorite players than you are at Coachella. So, yeah, we're looking forward to rolling it back out. My expectation is that in 2025, it's going to be even bigger and better than what you might have seen the last 3 years. And our team's working really hard to get that out there and available.
Well, Tom, the game coming up is on Sunday, 3 p.m., 3:25 p.m. is the kickoff time. There's a lot of fun events here that we'll talk about here. Is there anything in particular you're excited about, or just to get back in the stadium this particular time after almost 3 weeks off here?
Yeah, no, we're excited. We need everyone to arrive early. We announced this afternoon that we have a world-renowned DJ, Dylan Francis, who's going to be doing the DJing at the game. So Kevin can probably give everybody some feedback on what songs Dylan Francis does.
Yes.
Rally towels. We'll have Galaxy Park open. The foundation will be doing auctions. Just everyone needs to arrive early because it is incredibly important that everybody's in their seats at 3 o'clock when this game is going, because we need every bit of help we can get. It makes a difference. And we all know these one and dones, anything can happen in a one-game playoff series. So we need our fans really behind us on Sunday.
Well, before we let you go here, one last super chat here, and it's one of the hard-hitting ones. Greg Vanny answered this question. I think everybody who has come on the show has answered this question. It's from Gary, one of our favorite super chatters. He asked you the big hard-hitting question: Coke or Pepsi for you, Mr. Tom Braun?
Oh, geez. It was always Coke growing up. It's been a while since I've had a Coke. But I'd say Coke all the way.
The one correct answer, which is good. You want to be on the right side of history on this one. Coke is the correct answer. Always that. And also, every time we ask any of the players, they're always like, "Oh, when was the last time I had a soda?" I think I may have to cut out soda, Kevin. It's starting to get to me, Tom. I think you guys are clearly living the healthier lifestyle here. I am drinking water right now, as should be pointed out, but
that's vodka. I can tell it's vodka.
It could be that too. It could be that too.
Well, I drink an unhealthy amount of coffee, so that makes up for maybe not drinking soda.
Thanks for making me feel better, Tom. I appreciate it. Well, Tom, we'll see you out at the game on Sunday. Any final closing words for any of the Galaxy fans out there?
Just excited to get this going. We got a big game ahead of us, and all your support's going to be really valuable. So looking forward to it.
Awesome, Tom. We appreciate you coming on. Be safe, and we'll see you out there on Sunday, all right?
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. There we go. Mr. Tom Braun.
He is the brawn in the brains.
He's a smart guy. And by the way, we should point out, and I think we have pointed out many times, that Tom will come up before almost every game and stop and talk to us. And not just, "Hi, how are you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. He'll stop and talk to us for a good 10, 15 minutes. We have all sorts of things. There are some clarifications I would like to put out. One is, I am not against ham as a Thanksgiving nor a Christmas treat. I'm just against the stuffed ham that comes out of the East Coast. That is not the same as honey baked ham. I'm in on the honey baked ham, 100%. But yeah,
Easternmost in quality, Westernmost in flavor. Glad we got that cleared up.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. There we go. So, no, so, this is where we're at now. And we've joked around 21, 22, 23 days. We're I think it's 23 whenever it all is said and done on Sunday.
And you keep saying this week. They don't play this week. They play next week. That's how bad it is.
I've said this weekend. Thank you very much.
That's true.
And that is a correct statement, because I didn't want you to try to correct me by saying this week. By the way, in MLS parlance, this is in the match week, because the match week runs through the whole weekend. It is not a new week just because it starts on Sunday. Another thing MLS gets wrong is they don't know when the week starts.
Well, here, let me give you a little tip. Do not let Don Garber describe your reality for you, because it'll totally mess you up.
I'm sure that is. I'm 100% sure that is the case. That's how it goes. No, Tom sort of talked about it a little bit here, but it is going. They do have some interesting stuff going on. They asking everybody to arrive early, as they said. There's going to be the first 20,000 fans receive the playoffs rally towel, which will look great last time. Maybe you can use it to keep the raindrops off. Although 40%, 50%, we're not there yet. Don't freak out about the weather yet. As someone who watches the weather, you will know on Thursday or Friday whether it's going to rain Saturday or Sunday. All right. So, just because the LA Times published an article, Kevin, that said that the latest atmospheric river is on the way, don't just push that out of the way for a little bit. Don't let the raindrops or the dew, try to harsh your mellow, as they say.
The raindrops keep falling on my head.
Nah, that's horrible. The only reason that's a horrible song is a long time ago at one of my sister's recitals, there was this girl who was learning to play the guitar, and she sang that song, and it was like a death march. It was not good. So it's a good song. Just I can't get the other part out of it. The LA Galaxy heavily favored in this. We've talked about that as well. If you've gone back and watched this game, I would just, if you're still trying to figure out some LA Galaxy things to do, go back and watch the last time the LA Galaxy in Minnesota played at Dignity Health Sports Park, Kevin. Because if you'll remember, it was a 90th minute goal that separated these two teams in a 2-1 win for the LA Galaxy. That was Mauricio Cuevas with a nice little flick around the corner. In fact, probably one of the most beautiful plays that may have happened this year. If you're looking for top goal, that may have been it, just in terms of the build-up play and everything else. But it was Ricky Puig who found Mauricio Cuevas crashing around the right-hand side. A little flick up over his defender at a full sprint, was able to cross it back in there, and the Galaxy knocked that home to go up 2-1 in the 90th minute there. So that's how close these two teams are separated. One of the things you and I were watching, Kevin, was the internationals. And we talked about Joseph Paintsel not going last Monday. He wasn't going to go on international duty, and he didn't. And I believe Ghana actually did not make qualifiers for the African Cup of Nations. I believe they actually missed out on that. So that wasn't something that happened. And there was a whole bunch of people who didn't show up for that team. Joseph Paintsel wasn't the only one. There were 8 or 9 players who decided to stay home and not go for those games. So some turmoil going on there. But Joseph Paintsel didn't go. Minnesota, not so lucky. There are, 7 players? 7 players from Minnesota who then went on international duty. And as we were sort of going through some of these are guys who are playing right now. We had Dane St. Clair, who had 90 minutes and plays again tomorrow. Olivasi is in there, 61 minutes, who played, I think, on Thursday or Friday, and then plays again tomorrow for Canada. Robin Laud was away with Finland. Teemu Pukki away with Finland. Laud got 2 90-minute games in there. Pukki got at least 15 minutes in the first game, and I didn't see about in the second game, and I didn't see about the first game against Ireland there. Michael Boxall played in their New Zealand match. Then you had Joseph Rosales playing for Honduras. I believe they're playing right now and finishing up that game, but 90 minutes on Friday.
No, I believe they play on Tuesday.
That's right. That was the other one. Carlos Harvey was the one playing for Honduras, who was, or for Panama, who was playing that game currently. Joseph Rosales for Honduras played 90 minutes on Friday and then played tomorrow against Mexico, right? So these are guys who are in competitive games. Now, some of that, you and I are certainly have focused in on the Finland and the New Zealand and understanding what the travel means in that. And
Boxall's coming back from Samoa. That's 100%. Where they played their last game.
100%, right? So you could see Samoa, you see Finland, they were at Greece, so they're flying around. So that's that. There are 2 sides to this story, though, Kevin. Whenever you have 3 weeks off, maybe those guys are shaking off the rust a little bit and are going to be ready. So Minnesota has maybe 7 guys who feel like they've gotten some competition, they've gotten some things that have happened, and now they're ready to go and play in this game as they go. Here's the mindset for me whenever you think about being on the road in a knockout game. You got to go. You got to be ready. You got to be fired up. There is no option to be cagey, calm, cool, collected. You have to be ready for the onslaught of what is going to happen to you because you are playing on the road. You know the LA Galaxy are going to come fired up. Who's going to adjust? Who's going to find their rhythm the fastest? A lot of times it's the team that knows they have to be aggressive. The Galaxy don't always play great whenever they're not aggressive. So I would expect that they're going to come out and try to score some goals, but that could leave Minnesota in a position, one, with these guys who have just come off international break. They've had a couple weeks off beforehand, going international break. Now they're almost in a flow and a rhythm, and they're ready to come back, especially whenever you look at Laud and Pukki, who can really make a difference for Minnesota.
Well, I told you, I think in the last pod, I have a friend who's an owner, one of the co-owners of the Minnesota United team, and we talked after the playoff pairings were set, and he said, look, there is that 3-week break. He said, that could help the Galaxy in that everyone's going to be rested and fresh. It could help Minnesota because he anticipated a lot of people would be going up to international break, and those guys will be coming back in a little bit of a rhythm. And I kind of think that may be, if there's an edge, that might be it. I went out and talked to Gabriel Pec this week, and he told me he is really not happy with this long break. actually last week, I guess I spoke to him. He said he's really not happy with this long break. It's just too long, and he feels like everyone's getting out of rhythm. The other thing that you've mentioned a few times. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say too, the game on Sunday. Don't forget, it's at 3:00.
Right.
It's earlier than normal, so different traffic patterns, all that stuff you need to worry about in Southern California. The Rams are also home at SoFi, just down the 105 freeway. They will kick off at 5:20. So you may be able to get around SoFi without too much of a traffic problem going to the game. Going home might be a problem. But in any case, the thing that I really worry about with this game, in addition to the long break, because I do think it's going to take a few minutes for people to figure out where everybody is and how if anyone's fatigued, if anyone's too fresh, how strong they are. The rain could be a real debilitating factor for the Galaxy, because I think this team, it's a team with a lot of finesse, a ton of speed, especially on both wings, up the middle with Ricky. Rain could really hurt that, depending on how much it rains. Now, if the ball just sticks and it's just a kind of a wet track, that might not be too bad. If it really begins to pour and it hurts the Galaxy's speed, especially on the wings again, that could be a real factor in the game. Minnesota United is used to playing in inclement weather. They're a little bit more of a plodding team, I think, compared to the Galaxy.
Right.
They might not be hurt by the weather nearly as much.
Yeah.
And I want to add too, we've had, by the time we get to Sunday, we will have 21, 22 days of beautiful soccer weather.
Yes.
That we didn't get to play in.
Yes.
And then we wait till the 22nd day, and all of a sudden people start building an ark because it's going to start raining.
Absolutely. David, by the way, $5 super chat. How beautiful it would be if the Galaxy win the MLS Cup on December 7th in 2024. It would be the 6th MLS Cup and the 10th anniversary of the 5th MLS Cup. The Galaxy have won an MLS Cup on December 7th before.
That would make December 7th a day that would live in Femini.
No, you can't say. Nice try.
You can't say infamy because it's not infamous.
On Pearl Harbor Day. Yes, of course, always something. But I remember the December 7th games, and have been there before, and have already planned to block out my schedule on that particular day. David with another $5 super chat. If they win the MLS Cup, it will be the first without Landon Donovan. I don't believe Landon was on the team in 2002 because he was with San Jose. But other than that, he was on the team in 2005, and then all, of course, in 11, 12, and 14 whenever they won. But I believe the 2002 he was with San Jose. So
a pretty good stat though. I like that.
No, it is. It's certainly Landon Donovan has been a part of a lot of this. By the way, Landon has a new podcast out, really good, with Tim Howard. They're actually one soccer knowledge through the roof, so I enjoy that. Behind the scenes look through the roof, so really enjoyed that. I think it's Unfiltered Soccer is what it's called, if I remember correctly. It's worth a subscribe for sure. But no, Landon is great, and so it's interesting to see all the stuff that he's sort of getting into with Timmy there. But no, I look at this and I look at this game, and yes, I think there's a side to us that we can convince ourselves that Minnesota could, with those international players and sort of using that as a sort of jumping off point, could be better than the Galaxy. There's also the point where those guys are just tired from having played 2 games after having 2 weeks off, and then they go out and they play, and then they have to travel back, and they have to do all this, and then they have to get on the plane, they have to get back to Minnesota, and then they have to travel out to Los Angeles. There's a lot. And 7 players, not all of which are starters, 7 players does not make up an entire team either, right? So there's a ton of Minnesota players, in fact, most of their starting lineup, that will be without that jump start of those international breaks. So,
well, and by the way, I don't mean to say that by any stretch of the imagination do I think Minnesota United is better. If you took the 11 starters on each team and even the couple of first guys off the bench, I think you'd give the Galaxy a heavy edge if you went position by position and player by player. But as we know, soccer doesn't get played that way. Anything like a bad weather, guys being out of rhythm. And we just saw, I had to do an interview with Las Vegas Radio earlier today talking about the Las Vegas Lights in the USL Championship.
Okay.
They played a playoff game this weekend. It was a one-and-done playoff game. They dominated. They had 3 times as many passes. They had 70% plus possession. They outshot Colorado Springs, outshot them on goal. Everything went their way. They lost 1-0. Why? An early goal, and then you bunker down.
Yep.
If Minnesota gets an early goal, as you know, you keep that stat, first goal allowed.
Yep.
Galaxy, a not good team at coming back. That first goal could be really key in this game, especially again. And we know the weather here changes. It could be 70 degrees and beautiful. but there is a forecast for rain, and first goal on a rainy day could really make a big difference.
Yeah, it's super interesting with that. Just watching how the field plays, doing all the stuff that's going to happen. Listen, I'm not overly concerned about the rain. We'll talk about it on Thursday and really sort of dive into that. But you did mention that you got to talk to Gabriel Pec. I wanted to know, sort of what you took away from that, and I think there's somebody that also deserves a pretty big nod for Gabriel Pec's success. So why don't you tell the people what you learned when you talked to Gabriel?
Well, the guy who gets the most credit, I guess, for success is Gabriel Pec,
That's
of course. But Juninho is second on that. And I talked to Greg Vanny a little bit about that, and he looked at Gabriel Pec, and one of the things they talked about and they talked through is, will this guy be able to adjust? He's never been anywhere, never lived or played anywhere outside Brazil, outside Rio de Janeiro, where he was born, just out in the suburbs outside, never played anywhere else. He's a young guy. He came here at 22. Hadn't gotten married. He got married his second month here. So
right.
That was kind of cool. His wife, by the way, speaks English, and she's helping him along. He understands a little bit of English now, but is not comfortable speaking it. But in any case, the idea was, when he came here, look, there's some things we're going to have to tell him. We're going to have to teach him how to play in our system. We're going to have to show him what we want to do, our strategy. And he was just not up to processing that in English. So Juninho became sort of an assistant coach, and he travels with the team now. He's always on the bench. Whenever Pec is around, he's translating for Greg Vanny. There were a number of things that made his season so successful. And this may be obvious to some people, but if you remember the first 5 games, he struggled a little bit. He was playing on the left wing, and Joseph Paintsil was on the right side. Then Paintsil got the hamstring problem in May, and they moved Pec over to Paintsil's side, to the right side, which is his natural side. And he caught fire and just became really super dangerous. And so when Paintsil came back, he said, I'll go to the left side. That's not my side. I'm not comfortable there. That's not where I'm good. But he played a little bit of forward too, you remember, during that
right.
period. So that helped a little bit too. But Paintsil made the sacrifice to go to the left side, allow Pec to stay on the right, where he's been dominant. Another thing that Greg Vanny did too is he said they saw this on the film, that at his club he was a heels on the touchline winger. He was forced to play out wide. And Greg said they looked at the tape and said, gosh, when he scores goals, he's in the box. And putting him out wide, where he's not part of the team, where he's not in the mix, is just a waste of time. So they actually worked very hard on getting him to cut in and get in the box and become more dangerous, connect with players, and don't stand out on the wing that far. That has made a big difference to him too. And another thing he told me is that when he played at Vasco, that was a very serious club. He said, we spent more time working on tackling than we did on dribbling. And he said, that's not my game. I don't do that. And he said, coming here, it's rekindled the joy, that he has more joy now playing soccer than he did at any time since he's a kid. And it wasn't like he didn't want to win and he knew Vasco da Gama had to win, but he said the pressure there was an entirely different type of pressure. And by the way, I need to thank Camila Kawashita. She's the wife of Galaxy strength and conditioning coach Adam Watterson. She was my translator. Juninho, for all the translating he does, said, I'm not translating for a journalist. I don't feel comfortable doing that. So Camila, who was born in Brazil and met Adam when she was living in Australia, they've lived here now for working with the Galaxy for about 6 or 7 years. She came out and decided and offered to translate for me. So that was very nice, very helpful.
It's so interesting too. I remember Greg Vanny telling us in a post game. He said we were talking about Gabriel Pec and how successful he was on the right hand side. He goes, "Well, he needs to be." He goes, "If I'm going to keep him out there, he better keep scoring goals." Right? It was like one of those. It was like, "Hey, you can stay on the right, but there's 2 guys who want to play on the right, and if you're not going to score goals out there, then we'll move Joseph Paintsil over there and he'll score goals." Again, not in a mean sort of way. It was more of just like hey, this is how this works too. And I think, it sort of looks at that. Paintsil may be on the left-hand side, but it's because that Gabriel Pec has been so successful on the right-hand side that you can't move him, right? It's one of those, how when players get injured and then somebody comes in and they're playing so well, you're like, that guy's not. Look at John Nelson, by the way. John Nelson was not. If I told you John Nelson would be starting a conference semifinal at the beginning of the year for the LA Galaxy, everybody would say that's crazy. Where's Julian Aude? Where is he at? But Aude went out. He got hurt. It took him a while to come back. John Nelson has made that position his, and he's evolved his game in the process. John Nelson making money while he's doing that, because basically any club that looks at him, anybody who sort of is looking at what John Nelson can do, now says, you know what, I need a left back like John Nelson. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's coveted as you go into the offseason and everything else. And there's an expansion draft this year as well, because San Diego's coming in.
Well, a couple of stats on Gabriel Pec. 16 in the regular season, I believe it was 16 goals and 14 assists. I think I have that right. 30 goal contributions. Only it's the fifth time in franchise history that's happened. So Zlatan did it twice. Kobe Jones did it, and then Robbie Keane did it. So he's in some high company with that's 15 goals and 10 assists. He's the first or the youngest player in MLS history to do that. One of the things that was interesting is everyone knows that that faith is a big part of Gabriel Pec's makeup. He's very religious, and we did the whole interview talking about soccer and everything else. And then at the end, I sort of said, I know faith's a big part of who you are. Talk a little bit about that. His face really brightened up. And one of the things he talked about is how he wants to go play in Europe like every player does. But we talked about, look, you're good enough to go to Europe. You could be on a roster, but you wouldn't play in Europe, especially if you just came from Bosco and show up in Europe. But now you are establishing yourself. This middle step that's going to take you to Europe. Now, if you go to Europe, you're going to go as a player who's going to compete for a starting spot. You're not going to be sitting on the bench, and you're going to be a known quantity. And he said he credited God for that and said, yes, that's very much true. I'm so glad I came here. This is not what I wanted to do. I wasn't really happy when the Galaxy said, come on over here, because I want to go to Europe. But he said, this is the best move I could have made. I've established myself. People have noticing me. I'm going to get a better deal when I do go to Europe. But he said he signed for 5 years. He said, I'm not thinking about that at all right now. My focus is on the Galaxy and on MLS and winning the championship.
Will Kuntz may have to think about that in the offseason as the offers come rolling in for some serious money there, but we'll talk about that when we get to the offseason. The LA Galaxy scheduled this week, Kevin. They train today, Monday. They're off on Tuesday. The reason the off day is to sort of reset into a game week or a normal game week type of schedule, and with a game on Sunday, you need that sort of off day in there to sort of get everything rolling. So the Galaxy will train on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with a game on Sunday. We have press conference or press availability on Thursday. Our show will be on Thursday night, so we should be able to bring you those comments from the LA Galaxy players, from Greg Vanney about how everything's going there, and get a little more insight into how the off time was spent and what the LA Galaxy are looking for. But everything pointed towards this weekend. And again, I think we've talked about it. We talked about it on Monday. In fact, I have a lot of the same slides. The LA Galaxy will know who they will possibly face in the next round should they get past Minnesota before they go and play that Minnesota game. Whether that gives them any sort of motivation. Maybe if Seattle stuns LAFC on Saturday night, all of a sudden the Galaxy are like, we get a chance to host this game. Let's go out there and win this game. Let's win it big. Maybe the fact that the cards and the stars are all crossed and aligned in order to get LA Galaxy and LAFC, the two teams that were separated by goal differential and only goal differential through the regular season, and now two of the favorites to win MLS Cup. Maybe those stars aligning in the Western Conference give the LA Galaxy the want to go over to BMO and face those guys in the away game. Also, the big decision. Does Houston, we've sort of been spinning Houston as a positive, right? The Galaxy lose that game in Houston. It's sort of reset. Greg Vanney goes in and says, hey, welcome to the playoffs. Anything like that can happen. Only next time it happens, your season's going to be over, right? He told us that after a game. We've been spinning that as a positive, as motivation. But if the Galaxy get past Minnesota and they have to go away to LAFC, is that the straw that breaks the camel's back? Was the Houston game the reason they're going away, which it would be, and then they can't get past LAFC? If they had them at home, would there have been a better chance? There are a lot of storylines that are starting to cross, but before any of that happens, the LA Galaxy have to face off against Minnesota in the last game of the 4 games that are still going to be played for the conference semifinals here. It is New York City and New York Red Bulls, a New York derby on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, and then you'll have the nightcap, which is LAFC hosting Seattle, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday night. Then Sunday morning, it's going to be a 12:30 p.m. game, so just in the afternoon there on the Pacific Coast, it's going to be Orlando hosting Atlanta, right? The number 4 and number 9 there are playing each other, and Orlando possibly looking to extend the hot streak and making Sasha Kleshin look smart whenever he picked them as a possible MLS Cup contender earlier in the year. And then it will be the LA Galaxy, the nightcap of this particular one, in Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. Kickoff time 3:25 p.m. If you're keeping track there, you're going to want to get there early. It's LA Galaxy in Minnesota, the number 2 versus the number 6. So
yeah, look at the top 3 seeds in the East are all done.
All gone. All gone. Miami, adios, Columbus, see you later. Cincinnati, bye-bye, right? The whole deal. And it really is. Most of Vegas has the LA Galaxy as the next favorites to win MLS Cup.
Actually, I saw some lines that came out the other day that had LAFC slightly ahead of the Galaxy.
That wasn't the one. That must have just changed because it's been
well, I mean,
they're
different lines. Places put out different lines.
They do. Well, I mean, and obviously a line is usually to get people to bet too. So it's one of those things. It's like, oh well, let me.
Yeah, they adjust right when a lot of money comes in on one. They adjust a little bit so they don't take a heavy loss.
Yep, absolutely. That's how it works. So
this is for entertainment purposes only.
Always has been. The LA Galaxy at least last week 61% favorites to beat Minnesota, 17.2% win chance for Minnesota, and 21.8% chance of a draw. Just a reminder, extra time. There will be extra time. You'll go to 2 15-minute periods. If that's still tied after that, you will go to penalty kicks. It is one game to rule them all. And so the winner advances to the next round and the conference finals before heading off to MLS Cup.
Can I just say one more time? I really want to emphasize this because this is making you talk about your head hurt. This makes my head hurt. There are different sets of rules for the first round and the second. Actually,
Yes.
If you go to the wild card, the first 3 rounds of the playoffs all have different rules. It was best of 3. Games could not end in a draw. You went to penalty kicks. There was no extra time. Now it's a set elimination game with extra time with penalty kicks after that. It's crazy. How can anyone keep track? Are you going to get casual fans to a game that you can't even explain the rules of the playoffs?
I'm not even sure how they keep score in soccer anymore. It's been so long since they played a guy. Do you get extra points for shooting outside the box? And maybe like a 3-point
There's
line?
an arc. Yeah, 3 points.
That's good. I like that. All right, LA Galaxy, Minnesota coming up on Sunday. That's Sunday, November 24th, 3 p.m. And then 3:25 p.m. is your kickoff time. We'll have a show on Thursday to get you ready for that. The Hammer says he's ready to go. So Thursday night it should be me and the Hammer himself. So looking excited to that. Kevin, anything else you got for the fine people?
Yeah, there's a Galaxy Day coming up at the Train Club this winter.
We're thinking about it. Thanks, though. I like how I just say, hey, maybe we should do this. And then you're like, hey, let's just throw this out and do it.
Yeah.
Yes. We're working on something that perhaps on a Sunday we shall invite all Corner of the Galaxy fans out to some free train rides at the Train Club.
Were we going to do a live pod at some bar there out in your little neck of the woods?
No, but that's okay.
Okay.
No, you're just making stuff up.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Okay, well, everybody pick up the Fish Wrapper tomorrow and read everything you need to know about Gabriel Pec. We'll be in there.
There you go. Kevin's got a good one
That's
coming
helpful.
out. That will be good. That's on the LA Times, by the way, in case you didn't know which fish wrapper they were talking about. Let's see. Semifinals.
The digital copy does not wrap fish nearly as well.
Right. $2 super chat from Football Mania. Hey guys, semifinal predictions for both of you. I'm not ready yet. It's Thursday. I could make predictions. I will give you what I'm leaning towards right now. I think New York Red Bulls are going to beat New York City. It's just a feeling. I think the New York Red Bulls are done losing in the playoffs. And so perhaps this is their year. I have no idea about the LAFC Seattle game. Part of me says that Seattle has a chance just because they have a stingy defense, and then part of me says they're going to get blown out because they have injuries. Not sure on that one. I'll make that pick on Thursday. Orlando over Atlanta, LA Galaxy over Minnesota. That's like in general terms. I think I could probably do some of that, but that's
you're picking against the fighting Brad Goussans, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Their luck is. They used up all their luck. You have a jar of luck.
That was pretty magical.
Yeah, you pour it out. You had to use all your luck against Messi. That's hard to get that luck back. Not in 3 weeks. It takes a long time to find that luck. So, all right. I think that about does it. If you are looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter on Twitter and X, it's at KBaxter11. Head on over to LATimes.com for all of his wonderful articles. Again, Gabriel Pec article coming out here tomorrow. So check that out, LATimes.com. If you're looking for me on Twitter and X, at JGuessman, at Galaxy Podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com for all of our shows. And of course, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple iTunes, any of the places that you can find our podcast, you can find us. Type in Corner of the Galaxy. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We certainly appreciate you hanging in there. Game show coming up on Thursday night. The Hammer and I will be back to get you ready and previewed for this game on Sunday. All right, for Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesswin. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. As we thank you for listening, we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.